So let's finally talk about the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which is not only my favorite horror film of all time, but besides the Bond films, it's also my favorite film in general. This film is an exceptionally creative film in every aspect of its being. First of all, it's a very creative story about a killer who hunts you in your dreams. Someone you cannot escape from, because you have to sleep at one point, and if he gets to you, he will kill you and you will die in real life. That's a pretty interesting idea. Second of all, it's very creative in its style. It's impressive what the master Wes Craven was able to accomplish, how much he was able to accomplish with very little, because this film had a very limited budget and he was forced to get creative to get the most out of what was there, and they did an exceptionally great job with this. This film is one inventive effect after another, one creative dream sequence after another, and it's very fast paced, it never stops, and because those killings are set inside of the characters' dreams, there are endless possibilities, because in a dream everything is possible, and that's why they managed to get this creative with a very limited budget. There are scenes I still cannot believe those ideas, because they are so great and so inventive. For example, there's a scene in a bathtub where our main protagonist Nancy, the girl next door, she's a final girl portrayed by Heather Langenkamp. I like her a lot. She's just a likable girl. You know, you feel like you know someone in your real life like this. And she's taking a bath, and Freddy somehow, and she falls asleep inside of the bathtub, which is a pretty dangerous thing to do, of course. And Freddy, comes from underneath the water, and you just see his claw, coming near her. And this is, it's a very simple effect if you think about it, but it's very effective and it's very creative. And there are a thousands of those creative decisions made in this film. And then there's a scene where Freddy comes through a wall. And there was no CGI, of course, and it was such a simple but again very effective thing to do. It was just some sort of a bad sheet, I guess, and there was an actor behind it and pressing his face and his hands against the sheet, and it was just lit very well. They did such an amazing job lighting this, so it looks very impressive and it looks really cool, and it's such a cheap effect. There's another great scene where Freddy's on the telephone and the telephone transforms somehow into his mouth, his tongue, and I think this was a cheap effect they got at some Halloween store or something for very little money. I don't know, maybe $20 or something it was, I guess. Another example for what I'm talking about is a scene where Nancy is running from Freddy, and she's running upstairs and all of a sudden got stuck in the stairs because they somehow transform into some liquid-like stuff, and she got stuck and she cannot get up the stairs, and they just took some I don't know, what was it, smashed potatoes or something, and created stairs out of it. So the actress just stomped into this gooey ugly thing, and that's another example for this simple creativity, and those forces are driving this film. And that's what I like about, because it's not always about spectacle. Spectacle can be such a stupid thing. I think movies are about creativity, creative ideas, creative plot lines, creative storytelling, and of course creative effect work. And this film is a major example for this. And then there's all those amazing practical effects. There's nothing like practical effects, and horror fans love this. We are not too keen on CGI and stuff like that, and those practical effects in the film are impressive. First of all, it's Robert Englund's makeup as Freddy. This is how they lit his face, and yeah, I think he spent 4 to 6 hours in the makeup chair every day to look like this, and it looks amazing. Then there's a killing scene inside. They build a revolving room, because they wanted to create the effect of Freddy dragging someone along the roof, so everything was upside down, and they created this revolving room, and yeah, so there are amazing practical effects, and this is another reason for the brilliance of this film. It's a perfect horror film in my opinion. Then there's the music. You cannot get out of your head. It stays in your head, and it's very memorable. And there's this children's rhyme you will never forget. There are amazing set pieces, and it's also, yeah, they built this revolving room, but there was a lot filming on location because of the limited budget. So, but those locations are very atmospheric. The boiler room scenes are highly atmospheric, and I think they filmed this inside of some abandoned jail or something, which wasn't used by the time. And yeah, it looks very scary. It looks very dark, and it was the perfect location for those scenes. Then there's Robert Englund's performance. He comes from theater. He was a British actor at the theater, and a classically trained actor. And you can tell he became a modern horror icon, just like Frankenstein or Dracula or all of those classic horror film figures. And he became one of those, because he was so unforgettable and so unique in his performance, because he's very scary, but at the same time he got a very dark sense of humor. And this dark sense of humor, and how he speaks, how he talks. And there's this amazing scene where someone is screaming something like, "Oh my God," and he just shows her his glove and says, "This is God." Stuff like this, You will not get this out of your head. It's such an intense performance, and yeah, he became an icon, rightfully so. I also love the portrayal of, I mentioned her before, Heather Langenkamp's Nancy. I think she's an underrated final girl, and I don't want to talk about her as a final girl because I think she's way more than that. She's a very likable character, and she's just sweet. She's just sweet. I want to give her a hug or something. And then there's this thematically rich thing, between the parents and the children, because the parents never believe them, and no one listens to them, and they are left completely on their own, and that's why Freddy gets to them. So overall, this is for sure one of the most iconic horror films of all time. I think it's one of the most inventive and one of the most creative films ever made. I think it's a masterpiece, and I absolutely love it. And I hope I was able to convince you to give it a try. If you haven't ever seen it, please do yourself a favor and watch this film, even if you are not into horror films. I think you will appreciate it for its creativity and for its uniqueness. So please watch it, enjoy it, leave me a comment, I would love that. Love you, and see you very soon.